Hello and welcome to Voices of Parenting podcast. I am so glad you're here. My name is Mussi Diskin. I am an advanced nurtured heart approach trainer. I am a parenting coach. I am also an inner wealth coach, which means that I help people rediscover and connect to the people that they truly were all along, but may have gotten forgotten along the way. So to find out more about me and what I offer, you can check out mussidiskin.com, contact me through there, respond to this podcast, find me on social media. I would love to connect and I would love to hear your feedback. To sponsor a Voices of Parenting podcast episode, please reach out to energizinghearts@gmail.com. Thank you for being here, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Today, I have Lillian Reekie back with us all the way from Australia. This is episode 2 on her incredible story of transformation as a parent of a very intense kiddo. Go back and watch episode 1 for more on that. I'm so blessed to be having this conversation with you. Thank you so much for giving me this time and this treat, because your experience is so wildly hopeful. So hopeful for so many of us that are in similar shoes, and we feel like our situation is way too extreme, and it's like, no, you're a hope, you're a shining light for us. So tell us for a minute, just really quick, who you are today, what you do, and then we can get into the juicy stuff.
Thanks, Mussi. Well, hopefully people have listened to part 1, but I'm currently a parenting strategist and coach. I do workshops and masterclasses and courses predominantly based around nurtured heart because of the amazing journey that I've had to date. So that's my absolute passion. I work with parents, educators, anybody who wants to improve their relationship.
Amazing. And we're so glad that you do. Thank you. And she's got a lot of stuff on social media. You can go find her there. So I actually have a question for you, because I think you are such a good person to speak to this. For our listeners who are kind of, their foot's in the door of the transformation, they're starting to lean into the whole nurtured heart, or the idea of, like you said earlier, the being my child's advocate, being my child's biggest supporter, and that's bottom line. No matter what you do, no matter where you go, like, I am not going to stop being that for you, bottom line. So we're starting to make this shift and understand it, and I'm sure, I know even my kids were so young when I started this, and I am so grateful for that. But the grief that I had in looking back at how I was and my part in who they became was enormous. And the processing of that was so hard. And I wonder if you could maybe speak to that piece of it, where what does that look like to both forgive yourself and also to take that to your child, to come to your child where obviously you're starting to act different, right? I mean, it's almost sounded like, from your story, go back and listen, night and day, like from before the incident to after the incident, it's a whole totally different vibe. He comes home from school and he's getting told off, and then he wakes up from his 2-day stupor, and it's different parents. How do you speak to that? Especially with an older kid, right? I'm sure they're confused or maybe resistant. And how does a parent kind of navigate that?
If I step back in time, and let's just say I learned about nurtured heart when our son was in the middle of all that. Say it wasn't Frank, but it was nurtured heart. This is what I actually coach my parents to do now. I think if it was an older child, because one thing, and I'll go back to Frank again, he had so much wisdom. One thing he actually taught my husband and I was it's okay to tell our children we're sorry, because we are humans. Yes, we are parents, and yes, we are seen as, an authority, and we're the grown-up ones, but we make a lot of mistakes. We make a heck of a lot of mistakes. I think 99.9% of parents, if not 100% of parents, make a heck of a lot of mistakes. So one thing that Frank actually taught us was to say sorry. And I can remember when, it's a little bit of a backstory, you'll have to read the book, but when before we met our parenting coach, we watched a video that he did. And he told this story about apologizing to your children. So one day after a counseling session that my husband took my son to in the car, he actually just said, and they clashed a lot at the time, they were really clashing, and he was just really heartfelt, and he actually just said, Caleb, I'm so sorry we've made so many mistakes. We love you, but we have made a lot of mistakes in our parenting. And he went on to just say, we want to do it differently. We want things to be better. We want our relationship to be better for both of us, because he was kind of being dragged along to these sessions at that time. Remember, this is pre-Nurtured Heart. And so my husband really opened his heart. And I guess he wasn't typically the sort of man who did that, who opened his heart up and really shared. And I think it doesn't matter whether it's the mum or dad, but the fact that this was dad to son was really, really amazing. And upon that, saying that he was sorry, then our son said, no, Dad, I'm sorry, I've mucked up, I've caused you all this. So then it was almost like this sort of, thing where they were apologising to each other. And once again, that was another really big piece of the puzzle, the healing puzzle. So I think, for people who have children old enough to understand, which is really even from 5 and above, right? Or even some kids are even switched on at younger than that, is to actually say, like, mummy and daddy really love you, right? But we've mucked up, we've made a lot of mistakes, we've yelled, we've screamed, we've done things that we're not proud of. And I know for me personally, I, used to run into my bedroom and cry, put my head on the bed and cry because I was so sad and so disappointed with myself for how I had spoken or how I had reacted. But you know what? We can't live, being regretful about what we've done in the past. If you are learning about Nurtured Heart today, or if this is the first time you've heard about it, and you're like, right, there's some hope, I want you to understand that what happened 5 minutes ago, yesterday, last week, last month, last year, doesn't matter, because your children are going to see the efforts that you are making from this moment on, from this next conversation on, from the next words that come out of your mouth. So whether that starts with a heart to heart with your children and just saying, hey, look, I'm really wanting to learn how to do this better. And it might be, hey, I've found something called Nurtured Heart that's going to help me navigate this, or it could not, it doesn't necessarily have to be. We hope it will be though, right? But, for your child to see you in that vulnerability and also just being open enough to say, I've mucked up, because a lot of parents are like, I'm the authority, but I say it goes. And, like that I shouldn't have to apologize. I'm the adult. Well, I don't necessarily agree with that. We're all humans and we've just been around a bit longer, so we should have more wisdom, really, shouldn't we? But often the kids have more wisdom than we do. So I think just starting, from there and letting your children know, and if you do decide to take on Nurtured Heart approach, letting your children know that you're going to be trying something different. It's going to feel weird. It's going to be awkward. We're not used to speaking this way. You might not be used to hearing us speak this way, but you can either say it as a mum or a dad, or if you're parents, even better if you can be back to back having this conversation. Both of, we, your mum and dad, we are committed to, doing this. Or if you're just the mum, sometimes in some homes I work with one parent and the other parent doesn't want to know about it. There are other situations where, they're a single parent, they're estranged from the other parent. There are fortunately homes where the two parents are back to back and they want to work on this together. So whatever the situation is, have that conversation with your children and know through this process that not only are we going to help you to heal your relationship with your children, but with yourself. Because when you said about forgiveness, I had to forgive myself for so many things, not only with my younger son, and Mussi, we could have episode 3, 4, and 5, because, my eldest son, who was the quiet, compliant, cooperative one, if you read my book, you will see a very tragic thing happened, because he got so depressed because of our family situation, and he was the good kid, but he wasn't getting what he needed. He wasn't getting his portfolio built. He wasn't being told about his greatness and his qualities. We would throw some junk food praise at him. Once again, another Nurtured Heart term, good job, thank you, well done. But, when I reflect now, and because I've had so many, years to reflect, when I reflect back now, in some respect, I have more remorse in my parenting about how I parented my eldest son, who is now 38. He's an amazing man. We work together. He's a naturopath, herbalist, and nutritionist. But he's had to do a lot of his own healing because of the journey we had as a family dealing with his younger brother. So sometimes there are so many components to deal with. But please let me give you this assurance if you are just finding out about Nurtured Heart Approach, and I know, Mussi, you will agree with me wholeheartedly. Nurtured Heart Approach, in my opinion, of doing this work for 25 plus years, is the answer for everybody in every situation possible, whether it's a fractured parent and child relationship, a fractured romantic husband and wife or partnership relationship, a fractured adult child and parent relationship, a fractured sibling. It doesn't matter. This works for everybody. It's so amazing.
Yeah, I'm with you. Okay, well, before I jump forward into Nurtured Heart, because that's where I want to go next, I just want to reflect a little bit more on this whole forgiveness thing and this apologizing thing, which I love so much. And I so agree. And I'm so with you on that, Lillian. And the other thing that I think maybe stops us from apologizing is the fear that we're making a promise that we can't keep. It's like, I don't know if I could be any better of a parent. Why am I, I'm going to tell my kid, I'm going to be positive now. I'm not going to notice all your negative. And then I'm going to yell at him the next second. So what am I
Yeah.
even doing? Like, I don't trust myself. And I just want to reflect, guys, if you didn't listen to
Yeah.
episode 1 with Lillian, what your son said in that lecture in response to the question of what happened for him, that he saw your effort. He did not say, my parents, they started treating me so perfect. He did not say, everything was great. He said he saw your effort. He saw that you wanted to try. You wanted to do it right. And so he wanted to be better, not because you were better, because he saw that you wanted to be better. And I'm sure you were better. But that connection that happens when you turn to your child and are honest and are vulnerable and say, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to love you in the way that you need and deserve. But I really want to try. And I'm doing this thing, whatever it is, Nurtured Heart. I'm talking to someone, I'm reading books, like I'm trying, and I might mess up today in 5 minutes, I don't know, but I'm so sorry that I haven't given you, what you need till now. And I'm going to try really hard. That's what they need to know. That's what they need to hear. And like your son is such a great communication of that, like on behalf of all children, where he's like, like I didn't even care that much about you guys before because I
love that
feel
piece. Thank you for putting that in. That's so important. Yeah. Because thank you. Sorry, I just interrupted you, but that piece that you added in is so important because I think the fact that it doesn't mean we're going to get it perfectly. I could still yell at you later today, but I am here with the intention of doing everything I can. I'm not a fan of the word try because I think we either do or we don't. But I'm here to do everything I can. I'm committed to do everything I can to make this better for all of us, right? And then we would hope that I love the law of reciprocity. We would hope then that just like my son, that kid goes, well, I want to make it better too, because usually, let's face it, when kids are being oppositional and challenging and, as in my book, revolting, they don't want to be that way. I've had so many amazing conversations with my eldest son who said, I didn't want to be that way. I didn't feel good about being that way, but he just didn't know any different way to be. He actually was told so many times by so many people, including me and his dad and his teachers, that he was a no good kid, that he always gets into trouble, that he actually took that on board. And he's the sort of person, my son, that when he decides to do something, he does it well. So he did being not good well. He's like, well, if everybody expects me to be this way, then I'm going to give it to them really well. I'm going to be not good in a really big way. And the opposite happens too. I've got so many stories I could tell you about, like even the other day, like he's so good with his words. Can I read this to you? So this was only a couple of weeks ago. So the backstory was I had just been to have some testing done and the result wasn't what I wanted it to be. I was a little bit upset, but I was okay. And I rang, my 3 boys were all in the car together, would you believe, my husband and my 2 sons. So I just shared with them very calmly, what the result was and everything. And I thought I did a pretty good job of it. But he texted this to me shortly after, and this is a 30-year-old man, right? He said, "Hey, Mum, I recognise and respect the way you keep your chin up and remain mindful and centred always. I also recognise your mental fortitude and ability to will anything into or out of existence. I admire your resilience and ability to divert energy and intention towards all things positive and constructive. I remind you that for every day, whether easy or challenging in any shape or form, your team is with you," with a kiss emoji. And then I said some other things, but then I went on to say, "That means the world to me and reinforces not to energize things we don't want to grow, even if it can be challenging." And then I said, "Are you an advanced nurtured heart approach trainer?" And then he said, "I'm an advanced, slowly listening to my mother's advice, but rapidly repeating it expert." Proud of you, Mum. Give only your greatness energy. There is plenty of it to focus on. So, that's another example of what this can do for your relationships with your family when you use this ongoing. And Mussi, you're so fortunate that you found it when your children were young. How long have you been using it for?
Gosh, I'm not following years, maybe 6 years, something like that.
Well, because you've only got younger children. Yeah.
Yeah.
Such
Yeah.
a blessing to find it when your children are young.
Yeah. It is. And it's still, yeah, absolutely. I'm so grateful. My kids are amazing.
There's even an example of he was over 20 when I first learned about the nurtured heart approach. So that in combination with what we'd done prior, but up until only a few months ago, he lived with us. Like we've lived together the whole time. So he only just moved out just a few months ago. He and his partner lived with us for 5 years as well. She is beautiful. So we were a house of 5 adults and they've only just recently moved out. So we, have shared meals every night. We, just have shared. I miss him. I really miss him heaps.
Aww.
But we still see each other a lot. But he is so beautiful, and I really, really, truly believe in my heart, absolutely, had we not taken the path that we did, then we would not have these relationships now. He is so, both of my sons, I'm not just saying him, but he's usually the topic. Both of my sons are so supportive. They're so loving. They're so generous with their mum. I know that they are my biggest supporters and fans. They encourage my work. They congratulate me. They nag me about looking after my health. Have you had your supplements? Have you done your exercise? Like they're the nagging, caring, it's the tables have turned. And I truly, truly believe if we hadn't done what we did, then the outcome would have been very, very different. And I'm sure you see it like I do. So many estranged relationships between older, young adult children and their parents. It's prevalent, so prevalent. And it saddens me to see that, those relationships being so strained. And sometimes they don't even talk to each other at all.
Yeah.
Sad.
Wow, that's so beautiful that what's possible and what's available to us if we can just lean into the beauty of the other person, seeing the other person, and being their staunch supporter. And I just want to bring home what we said earlier again, that like Lillian didn't even have the nurtured heart yet, and she was able to make that transformation because of that shift of her role in his life from the disappointed, frustrated, just everything going wrong mother to like, I'm your supporter. I don't care what happens. I'm your supporter. And even just that, and there was so much transfer. So you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to know all the tools. You don't have to get it all right. That effort comes through. The fact that you want to comes through. The fact that you're listening to this podcast, it comes through. And that honesty and transparency and apologizing and just letting them know we want to be your supporters. We are your supporters. We're here and we're trying. Well, I heard you say the word you don't like. I hear that. But we're working on ourselves. We are.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so powerful. So we're about to close, and I almost want to do an episode 3 with you. I might, just if you're willing. But if you could go back, just as a closing thought, if you could go back to the Lilian of that little 3-year-old, that little 4-year-old who was being sent from daycare to daycare and just totally, before any of the coaching, any of the mentoring, if you could like hold her hands and look in her eyes and like just like attune to her for a minute, like what would you tell her?
To me, to myself.
Yeah, to that Lillian at that
Oh
time.
my gosh, that's amazing because, you know, I can still remember walking in to pick up my son from childcare so many times, just wanting to put big glasses on and a hat because, like, I knew that, I was the mother of that child, that very, challenging child. I can remember wanting things to be so much better, but being so frustrated because I just didn't know what to do. And I would hope, that I could, if I went back just to have faith that I would find the answer and know that something would come to us. It did take us quite a while to find, but we were working on things the whole time. Like we were working on things from when he was 4 and 5 years old. So my husband and I were committed way back then. So I think I would say, you know, acknowledge myself for my commitment to finding answers, even though I didn't find the answers straight away, but we were committed to finding the answers, to trying things, to changing his diet. So maybe I should go back and say, good job, Lillian. Good job for being a committed and loving and caring parent and doing everything you can to make a difference. Because I think I probably needed that to be said to me back then. Like my mum and my sister, they were very supportive, but they saw my struggle and they were sad for me too because they didn't know what to do either to help. So it was tricky.
But I love that to be able to look at
Mm.
in her eyes and say, like, it's so hard right now, and you want to hide in a hat and
Mm.
behind
Yeah,
glasses because you're that
yeah,
mom, but you're doing everything and you're not
yeah,
giving up and you never give up
yeah,
and you're seeking
yeah,
answers and
yeah.
you're so committed. And he's so lucky
Mm.
to have you
I'm lucky
advocating
to have
for him in
him.
the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's been
Um,
my best teacher.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if anybody wants to hear more about you, find out your book, your many books, possibly even work with you, how would they find you, Lillian, and what could they expect?
Thank you, Mussi. Well, you can go to my website and download my Revolting Child, A Blessing in Disguise book for free at Parent Support Network. If you want to just chat to me, probably the easiest way is on Facebook at Lillian Reekie, Parenting Strategist. And I'm happy to have a conversation with anybody who would like a conversation, even if just to offload some stuff, happy to do that. And, both Mussi and I, we would love to be able to support anybody listening in any way we can.
Yes. Thank you, Lillian, and thank you for being here. And until next time.
Thanks, Mussi. Bye.
Hey, wait, don't go yet. Take a minute to find the beautiful quality that you have that you appreciate about yourself.